Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Movie Bugle. My name is Justin and I am the host of this channel. So on this particular episode, I actually wanted to come and talk to you guys and give you guys sort of a breakdown of everything that's happening with the Marvel Cinematic Universe post Avengers Endgame and also post Spider-Man Far From Home. From the title of this video, you can probably already assume what we're going to get into. There's a lot that's happening. There's a lot of confusion from casting announcements, rumors that are going on. And I don't have the official scoop. I'm sort of just putting everything together and giving you guys what I believe that they're trying to do. Hopefully this is the way that they're going. I just wanted to have this conversation with you guys and try to bring some clarity as to what's actually happening with everything that's going on right now. So before we get to the future, let's sort of sum up everything that happened with the first 22-23 movies with Marvel. So as you guys all know, back in 2008, Iron Man 1 came out, and that was the first movie in a series of movies that led all the way up to Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame was the culmination of 10 years of storytelling. Pretty much, the first 6 movies between Iron Man and the Avengers was putting the Avengers together. At the very end of the Avengers, that's the first time we saw Thanos. And Thanos pretty much, introduced us to, okay, he has a mission. Is this going to be in the next movie? Is this going to be, a couple movies from now? Because we all now know that Marvel has the ability to put these characters together throughout different storytelling and throughout different movies. So from there, we get different movies that have all the different Infinity Stones. Like we had Doctor Strange that had the Time Stone. We had the Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, that had the Power Stone. The Space Stones showed up in the first Avengers movie, but it showed up in the first Captain America movie as well. The Reality Stone showed up in Thor: The Dark World, which was the second Thor movie. The Soul Stone didn't show up into the Infinity War movie, and that was a plot point in that particular movie. And the Mind Stone showed up officially in the Age of Ultron when we found out that it was actually a part of Loki's scepter. So like I said, all these movies tied together and pushed one big storyline that led all the way up to Avengers Endgame. That was the culmination. Now moving forward, what do we do next? We already just fought a big bad villain. We already introduced the Infinity Stones. We had the Infinity Saga. So what do? We now go multiverse. Now, the multiverse, if you're not really familiar with it, both DC Comics and also Marvel dives into the multiverse. Multiverse pretty much means there's an infinite amount of Earths. You can have the same character or the same person on Earth number 1, Earth number 2, Earth number 527, and it's just different realities for different ones. This is a way where, maybe a character died on this particular Earth, but that character is still alive on another Earth, and they're able to bring the map over. So why do we think we're going to the multiverse? Well, if we jump back to Spider-Man Far From Home, which came out last summer, they pretty much mention multiverse. Now, spoiler alert, if you did see Spider-Man Far From Home, that particular mention of the multiverse was a throwaway because Mysterio, who was the villain, was trying to trick Spider-Man into giving him the glasses that Tony Stark had left behind for him. But that did open up the conversation of the possibility of the multiverse. Moving to the future now, they're diving deep into it. We already had some movie news announcements back from Comic-Con and also D23 last year. The biggest name that was dropped as far as multiverse was Doctor Strange 2 and the Multiverse of Madness. And then from there, we got some announcements of some Disney Plus shows. WandaVision, I did a trailer reaction to the official WandaVision trailer. I'll put the link for that in the description below. But WandaVision is pretty much going to set up the multiverse. Now, What I mean by set up the multiverse, from my understanding, that particular storyline of WandaVision, obviously she's creating this bubble of her own reality. That's why she's in all these different TV shows with Vision, to try to deal with the fact that Vision actually died back in in Infinity War. So apparently there's supposed to be a big battle at the end of WandaVision where she's supposed to rip open the multiverse. That's supposed to come out sometime this year. Disney did officially say that WandaVision is coming out in 2020. We just don't know when in 2020 that is supposed to be coming out. From WandaVision, before all this casting announcement I'm about to go over with you in a second, it was my understanding that WandaVision was supposed to go directly into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, because she's also a key player in that movie. Now we have all these casting announcements and these rumors that's coming around the next Spider-Man movie this is the reason why I wanted to make this video. Jumping right into it, Spider-Man 3 is set to come out December 2021, and they are really going to lean into that whole idea of the multiverse. Why do I say that? Well, some of the biggest casting announcement that came out first is that they're bringing back Jamie Foxx to play Electro. Jamie Foxx played Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man, which is a whole different set of movies before Tom Holland became Spider-Man. In the current movies that we have now, Andrew Garfield was Spider-Man in those movies before. Now, the fact that they're bringing him back over, how can they do that? How can they mix storylines? How can they do everything like that? Why are they doing that? Is because they are establishing a multiverse. That opens up a realm of possibilities to, okay, if they're gonna bring him back, are they gonna possibly bring back other villains from other movies? Are they gonna bring back Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2, directed by Sam Raimi, that came out back in the early 2000s? Are they gonna bring back some of the other villains? What about Harry Osborn? What about Green Goblin? The current villains that we have in the current movies that we have Vulture, we have Mysterio, so they can use those movies as well. I remember, I believe sometime last year, no, maybe it was earlier this year, a trailer came out for an upcoming Morbius movie. Morbius is a villain in the Spider-Man universe, but it's not a villain that the current Marvel family is putting out. It's actually putting out by Sony. But they did have a little surprise at the end when they showed Michael Keaton, who plays Vulture, in Spider-Man Homecoming. He showed up at the very end of that one. So they've been teasing the multiverse for quite some time now, and I think that's the direction that they're gonna go in. If you remember a few years back, I wanna say it was maybe last year or the year before, we had the animated Spider-Man Into the Multiverse movie that came out with Miles Morales. But in that particular movie, even though Miles Morales was the main Spider-Man, you also had the Peter Parker Spider-Man. You had all these different, iterations of the Spider-Man or Spider-Woman character all come together for that particular movie. That one gave us, as a general audience, the idea of this multiverse can definitely happen. And that's another reason why I think that, they're bringing the multiverse to the silver screen in live action form with all these different characters. Now, something else that has been rumored around is they are trying to bring back Tobey Maguire, who played Spider-Man in the original trilogy, and then also trying to bring back Andrew Garfield, who played Spider-Man in the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. If they can make this happen, as someone who is a huge Spider-Man fan, I would be so excited to see all three of them swinging together, trying to figure out how do we end up in each other's universes. And I think that's a way of showing credit to the people who have been watching all of these movies all along, and say, hey, we acknowledge you, we see you, we appreciate you. Let's do this together for the fans. So my theory, how can they make that happen where it makes sense? Well, if they're tying the Spider-Man 3 movie together with, let's say, WandaVision, if Wanda opens up the multiverse at the end of her own series, in the Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man can be swinging around, New York. All of a sudden something happens where, another that Spider-Man comes swinging around. He's like, yo, what's going on? And they did another casting announcement with the Spider-Man movie. Is Doctor Strange is going to be in that movie as well. Not as like a side character. He's supposed to be a big character in that movie, which it makes sense to me because both of them are in New York City. Something that I've always been saying since they've been putting the Avengers together back in 2012 is that now that they have all of these characters living pretty much right next to each other or in the same universe, it's going to be kind of hard to explain why a big event happened, let's say over here, and why didn't this character show up? He lives right over there, or he's right over there, so how come this person, or she lives in the same area, she's part of the same team, why aren't they showing up? Why is that particular character the only one that's fighting that, that villain? For the most part, they've been doing a really good job with explaining that, okay, this is an isolated incident right here. Maybe it's on a small scale, but New York has a lot of different superheroes in that same city. So at some point, they're going to have to cross paths. Doctor Strange is supposed to be in the third Spider-Man movie, and because Doctor Strange can deal with reality, he can deal with time, I think Doctor Strange is going to help try to explain to Peter Parker why these different Spider-Mans are swinging through his universe, and also they may need all three Spider-Mans and maybe also to help with Doctor Strange if they have to fight the Sinister Six. Now, the reason why I say the Sinister Six is because the Sinister Six, if you don't know, is a group of supervillains that get together to try to, obviously, to fight Spider-Man. I think there's been different characters throughout the Sinister Six, through the different comic book variations and stuff like that. But I have my own opinion about some of the ones that are going to show up in this version of the Sinister Six. The first one, we have Vulture. Vulture was in, the Spider-Man Spider-Man Homecoming. We already have that character established. Morbius is getting his own movie at some point, so maybe by then, they've already shot the movie. I know it's been pushed back because of coronavirus, but they can have Morbius shows up, especially if they're gonna do the whole, multiverse thing. They can have him show up in the same way as all these other characters are showing up. Electro was already announced by Jamie Foxx that he's coming back, so he can also be a part of that as well. Doc Ock, like I mentioned before, from Spider-Man 2, directed by Sam Raimi, can also show up in there as well. With the multiverse, even though some of these characters may have died, like Doc Ock, he did die in his movie, they can go back to when he was still alive and bring him over. So with the multiverse, time is involved, which makes perfect sense as the reason why Doctor Strange is in that movie, because he deals with reality, he can deal with time and everything like that. Kraven the Hunter is another character. I believe that they are working on a Kraven the Hunter movie. He is a part of the Sinister Six, but I don't know if they made any major casting announcements for that yet. Mysterio was in Spider-Man Far From Home, and even though they showed him dying, no, I don't know if they ever showed him dying. I think that, the gag at the end of the movie with J. Jonah Jameson saying that, oh, Spider-Man killed Mysterio, and here's, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. I think they can always change that some type of way. Say that, he never died. He's actually putting all his people together because now he's really pissed off at Spider-Man. And then last but not least, you can't have a Sinister Six without some type of Green Goblin. So they can either establish a new Green Goblin, or they can bring back, the Green Goblin from either one of the other iterations. I think, maybe from Amazing Spider-Man, I think Dane DeHaan did a good job with it. I do like James Franco, Green Goblin, a little bit more, just because that's the one that I grew up with. But I don't really see that Green Goblin, James Franco's Green Goblin, wanting to fight, let's say, Tobey Maguire, because they were actual friends and they had more time to develop that friendship. I just seen Dane DeHaan's Green Goblin from Amazing Spider-Man 2 actually being that particular enemy in the Sinister Six. I think I just gave y'all 7, but they can choose 6 from those and make that happen. So Spider-Man 3 is going to be a huge movie in the next wave of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. to help usher in the multiverse. And then last but not least, which I'll go more deep into in another video, talking about the tie-in with WandaVision and also the tie-in with the Doctor Strange movie, is the Doctor Strange Multiverse Madness. That's supposed to come out, I believe, 2022. I think it was supposed to come out next year, but like I said, everything has been pushed back because of coronavirus. But that movie is going to be a huge movie as well, and I'll make a separate video talking about the importance of that movie and ushering in some other characters that Marvel wants to bring to us. So after that discussion, do you understand the multiverse a little bit more? Are you excited about the multiverse? Are you excited about the direction that they may be going in with that? Are you excited to see potentially all three Spider-Man swinging in together, and maybe even a live action Miles Morales? You know, we have an upcoming Miles Morales video game that's supposed to be coming to the PlayStation 5. We already had an animated Miles Morales movie. They already sort of hinted Miles Morales being in the actual MCU based on the Spider-Man Homecoming, when Donald Glover, I think he was playing his uncle. They didn't really show Miles Morales, but they hinted at Miles Morales because of his character, so he could potentially come swinging in there too at some point. So there's a lot of possibilities with that particular movie, and I'm really excited as a huge Spider-Man fan, as you guys can see from my shirt, to see what's going to happen with that. But as always, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and be sure to check out the Movie Bugle for the latest movie news, trailer reactions, and more things to come. And until then, I'll see you guys later.